In the journey of masculine evolution, every man must eventually face the gatekeeper, the embodiment of the feminine energy that tests his depth, discipline, and devotion to purpose. This is not merely a woman, nor an external enemy. She is an archetype woven into existence itself. The gatekeeper appears in moments of weakness and temptation, asking one silent question: have you mastered yourself? Semen retention is not just a physical practice. It is the weapon forged to answer that question. It trains a man to stand in the fire of desire without being consumed by it, to observe beauty without losing his balance, and to face the feminine not as prey, but as presence. The test is ancient, psychological, and spiritual battle between fleeting pleasure and timeless power. From the moment a man begins the practice of retention, he steps into an invisible arena. His body rebels, his mind negotiates, and the world tempts him with images, indulgences, and illusions. The feminine challenge comes cloaked in softness and smiles. But its purpose is sacred. It exists to awaken his dormant strength. When he resists, he doesn't reject her. He transcends her test. When he indulges, he falls back into the matrix of weakness, where men are ruled by their impulses rather than their purpose. The gatekeeper's power is not to destroy, but to refine, to filter out the undisciplined and elevate the devoted. In modern society, men have forgotten the ancient language of energy exchange. Every release of seed without consciousness weakens the spirit, dulls ambition, and clouds vision. The gatekeeper knows this and uses temptation as her tool. She draws near, not to harm, but to measure the man before her. Can he see her beauty and still stay grounded in his mission? Can he feel her allure without collapsing into it? The weak see her as an obstacle. The wise recognize her as a mirror, reflecting the state of their inner world. Every woman, a man, meets every temptation he faces as another version of the gatekeeper, challenging him to stand taller, think clearer, and love deeper without losing himself. True mastery through semen retention begins when a man stops seeing abstinence as denial and starts seeing it as empowerment. He realizes that every time he chooses discipline over desire, he forges invisible armor. This armor is not cold or detached. It radiates a magnetic calmness, a confidence born not of arrogance but of sovereignty. The gatekeeper senses this shift instantly. She cannot manipulate what she cannot move. Her tests become subtler, deeper, aimed not at his body but his soul. She begins to test his integrity, his patience, his leadership, his compassion. A man who has not faced his inner shadows will fail these tests. But the man who has embraced semen retention as a path of mastery has already learned to transmute tension into focus, lust into creativity, and chaos into clarity. At its core, semen retention is about energy preservation and redirection. The same life force that can create life externally can also create greatness internally when contained. The ancient sages, warriors, and mystics understood this. They didn't suppress the feminine, they honored her by meeting her energy with presence and strength. The gatekeeper does not yield to a man who resists her out of fear or repression. She bows to the man who meets her with reverence, self-control, and understanding. She is not conquered, she is aligned with her. Challenge transforms into cooperation, and what was once a test becomes a dance. The man who learns this balance ascends from the reactive to the creative, from chasing pleasure to commanding energy. But every ascension demands a price. As a man practices retention, suppressed desires surface. Old habits whisper for comfort. Past indulgences revisit his dreams, and the feminine energy seems to follow him everywhere. This is the gatekeeper testing his resolve. She manifests through attraction, attention, and the pull of the senses. Each encounter becomes symbolic. Will he repeat old cycles or rise into new consciousness? The discipline he maintains refines his perception, sharpens his intuition, and amplifies his charisma. He becomes a beacon, not because he chases validation, but because his very energy radiates mastery. The irony is that as he detaches from the need for pleasure, pleasure begins to seek him. The gatekeeper's test shifts from temptation to partnership. The challenge becomes cooperation. In the heart of every man lies the paradox of creation and control. The seed he holds is both his burden and his blessing. The more he wastes it, the more fragmented his energy becomes. The more he retains it, the more unified his power feels. The gatekeeper's role is to ensure that only those who can wield this power with consciousness ascend to mastery. Without her, men would never evolve. They would indulge until extinction. Thus, the feminine becomes the ultimate spiritual mirror, both the obstacle and the pathway. Every temptation, every emotional trigger, every test of patience is her way of asking, can you lead even in the presence of beauty? The modern man's greatest enemy is not the feminine, it is his own addiction to instant gratification. He confuses pleasure with purpose and comfort with peace. The gatekeeper exposes this illusion. Through her tests, he learns that the path to power is not paved with indulgence, but with restraint. Semen retention becomes the furnace in which his will is purified. He learns to delay gratification, to choose vision over sensation, to channel the raw force of desire into work, art, and leadership. He no longer seeks approval, he embodies alignment. This is the moment the gatekeeper begins to open the doors to higher purpose. The practice of semen retention is therefore not an act of suppression but of sacred alchemy. When a man learns to transmute his sexual energy into creativity, he becomes unstoppable. His gaze sharpens, his aura strengthens, and his presence commands respect without words. The gatekeeper feels this and begins to trust him with greater access not to her body, but to her energy. For only a man who can master desire can truly experience love, and only one who has faced the gatekeeper can truly understand the depth of the feminine. She stops being a test and becomes a teacher. Together, they form the balance of polarity, the sacred dance of yin and yang. However, mastery is not permanent. It is a living discipline. The gatekeeper's tests evolve with the man's growth. She may now challenge him through success, attention, or emotional connection. Can he remain humble when admired? Can he stay devoted when desired? Can he love without attachment? These are the higher initiations. Semen retention provides the inner clarity to navigate them, ensuring that his energy remains directed toward purpose rather than dispersed in distraction. The man who continues this path becomes a pillar of force that elevates everyone around him. In the end, the gatekeeper's test is not about denying the feminine, but about integrating it. The true master does not suppress desire. He transforms it. He understands that every temptation is simply energy seeking direction. When he channels that force toward creation, service, and vision, the same energy that once enslaved him now empowers him. The feminine no longer tests him because he has become whole. He no longer fears losing control, for his control is no longer rigid, it is conscious. He moves through the world as a king among men, not because he dominates others, but because he has conquered himself. Semen retention is thus the training ground of kings, warriors, and creators. It teaches a man to carry his seed as sacred fire, not waste it as fleeting smoke. The gatekeeper's role ensures that only those who respect this energy can ascend into mastery. Every glance, every encounter, every desire becomes an invitation to rise higher. The feminine remains near not as a trap, but as a companion to those who have proven worthy of her trust. She no longer needs to test what has already transcended. When a man reaches this level, he realizes that semen retention was never just about holding energy, it was about remembering who he is. The gatekeeper's challenge led him back to his throne, his mission, his divine order. The energy he once lost in pursuit of pleasure now fuels his creativity, his intuition, and his purpose. He no longer seeks freedom from the feminine. He experiences freedom through her. She becomes his muse, his mirror, and his equal. The cycle of temptation transforms into a circle of harmony. The path of semen retention and the gatekeeper's test is not for the faint-hearted. It demands courage, patience, and relentless self-awareness. But for those who walk it, the rewards are divine clarity, unstoppable drive, and spiritual sovereignty. The feminine challenge is not a curse, it is a catalyst for transformation. Every temptation resisted strengthens the will. Every test passed refines the soul. The man who learns to face the gatekeeper with honor, mastery, and love does not just retain his seed, he retains his destiny. And when he finally stands before the gatekeeper, no longer trembling with desire, but glowing with presence, she smiles, not in defeat, but in recognition, for she knows that he has become what he was always meant to be, a man of mastery, a guardian of his own power, and a living embodiment of balance between passion and purpose, ready to prove you are here. 2 quick things. First, absolutely crush the like button and subscribe, don't miss the next level of power. Second, tell me where you're dominating. Drop your city or country in the comments right now. For behind the scenes, insights, and direct Q&A, you need to be in the Telegram channel. The link is in the description. Help someone else find their power. Share this video immediately. Go get after it.